Assalamu alaikum. I hope you're doing well. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is a quick reminder that this is part 2 of my series of how to study in the US. So if you've not watched the part 1, I would highly recommend pausing this video right now, going and checking that one out. The link should be in the description and it should also pop up somewhere over here. First, go watch that video. It's more of like an outline of what exactly the series is, and it is sort of an introduction of every single thing that you need to know in order to study abroad. So first, go watch that video and then come back to this one. I've also created a playlist of this series on my channel, so if you want to go ahead and look at the playlist section of the channel, you will find all the videos for this series in there. So if you want to watch everything in order, that playlist is for you if you don't want to miss out on anything important. Alright, let's not stretch this and get into it. So when it comes to studying in the US, it is so important to look for the right universities. And I don't just mean in terms of academics or rankings or maybe even locations. I mean choosing schools that actually make sense for you, your goals, your finances, and most importantly, your visa chances. Let's break it down. I know it might be getting a little overwhelming. There are 3 types of main universities in the United States: public universities, private universities, and community colleges. Public universities are government funded. They usually have lower tuition fees for US citizens, and especially if you live in the same state as the university, you get an in-state tuition discount. So it's very cheap for you to attend that university. But as an international student, you do not get that discounted rate. You will be charged the out-of-state tuition rate. So for example, if you go onto the website of a public university and you're trying to get an idea of what the fee structure looks like, you will see a column that says out-of-state tuition and in-state tuition. So I hope that helps you get a better understanding of how to look at the fee structures when you're looking at what university you want to choose. For public universities, you always want to look at the out-of-state tuition. Sometimes public universities might even give you a scholarship or like some sort of award where they tell you, okay, we're gonna charge you the in-state tuition because of your grades, you're such an amazing candidate, we're giving you this scholarship. But in reality, that scholarship is basically charging you the same rate that they're charging the students that are US citizens from that same state. Keep in mind, if you're wanting to apply to a public university and they do not give you that in-state tuition, which normally they won't, you will be paying the out-of-state tuition. And sometimes it will cost you as much as even going to a private university. So as an international student, it's not the best idea to just look at a public university and think, oh, public universities are so much cheaper, I should just only apply to public universities. That's not always true, because the out-of-state tuition that you're going to be paying is sometimes going to cost you as much as the private university itself. And the biggest problem, most public universities do not even have scholarships for international students, and financial aid is a big no. Like, they won't have any financial aid for you, because since they're government funded, they do not have that budget for international students, because the government is only going to give financial aid to their own citizens, right? So they're not going to give you financial aid. Financial aid for international students is only usually available at private universities. So if you're someone who's looking for fully funded or even partially funded options, I would say public universities is not the best bet for you. However, if you're willing to pay the money, then sure, you can apply to public universities as well. For example, when I was wanting to go, I really wanted a fully funded scholarship. I couldn't afford a non-fully funded one. So when I got accepted into Georgia State University, they gave me an award of in-state tuition, and that is the only way it was even seeming to be, practical for me. But if I had to pay the out-of-state tuition as someone from a middle-class family, I would not have been able to afford that. So which is why I was not really focusing on public universities from the start. And then there are private universities. They are not funded by government. They get their money from tuitions, donations, and private funding. And yes, they are very expensive on paper, but keep in mind that they're also very generous when it comes to scholarships and financial aids, even for international students. In fact, that's exactly why I chose Texas Christian University, which is where I did my bachelor's from. It is a private university, and while tuitions are very high, they're extremely generous with scholarships and financial aid. They basically provided me with a full tuition coverage based on my academics, overall application, my leadership experiences, and the internships that I had done, and other extracurricular stuff that I had done back in my O and A levels. The tuition coverage was based on that. They basically gave me a scholarship and then added some financial aid to it, which when combined covered my entire tuition. So don't get scared by the price tag of private schools, because on paper it might seem very expensive, but don't underestimate the amount of financial aid and scholarships they might be very generously giving to you. And lastly, you have community colleges. These are 2-year institutions which basically give you an associate's degree. They do not give you a 4-year bachelor's degree. What a lot of people do is go to a community college, they get a general education over there, and then transfer their credits to a 4-year university to do their bachelor's degree then. They're usually very cheap. cheap, especially if compared to like private or public universities, and they're not very strict with grades. So if you are someone who has had like maybe low grades or hasn't done a lot of extracurriculars, or is someone who thinks that their application would not stand out in a very competitive pool, for example when applying to a private or a public university, you are someone who can think of maybe going to a community college. But you also need to keep in mind that most community colleges do not have any scholarship opportunities, let alone any financial aid opportunities for international students. So it's not always guaranteed that if you end up going to a community college, you'll be able to transfer all your credits to a 4-year university, or even maybe there's no guarantee that you'll be able to get a scholarship or even financial aid at a 4-year university after you transfer your credits from a community college. So it's a little bit of a riskier option, and since they do not have scholarship and financial aid, it might even cost you as much as it would to go to a public university, or it will still cost you a lot of money as an international student, especially if you convert the dollar rate to your currency. It is pretty expensive nonetheless. So if your goal is a full scholarship, the route of going to a community college is not very ideal. I'll explain the community college thing a little bit more in detail because I know it might sound confusing right now. तो काफ़ी लोग ये करते हैं जिनको मैं जानती हूँ, फॉर एग्जाम्पल डिफरेंट देसीज को, उन्होंने ये किया है कि अगर उनके ग्रेड्स अच्छे नहीं आए फॉर एग्जाम्पल ओ ए लेवल्स में, उन्होंने कम्युनिटी कॉलेज में एडमिशन लिया, विच इज़ वेरी वेरी ईजी टू गेट इन टू. लाइक इवन अगर आपने अपने ए लेवल्स अभी कंप्लीट नहीं भी किया ना, आई रिमेंबर मैंने शौक में ऐसी जब मैंने ए एस लेवल खाली दिया हुआ था, अपने ए एस के ग्रेड्स भेज कर ना किसी कम्युनिटी कॉलेज में देखा कि मुझे एडमिशन मिलता है, एंड लिटरली द नेक्स्ट डे दे गेव मी एन एडमिशन. सो इट्स नॉट अ बिग डील टू गेट एन एडमिशन ओवर देयर. ठीक है, आपको आराम से एक्सेप्टेंस आ जाएगी. देयर विल बी नो स्कॉलरशिप, देयर इज नो फाइनेंशियल एड, उनको फर्क नहीं पड़ता, उन्होंने आपको एडमिशन दे देना क्योंकि उनको आपसे पैसे मिल रहे हैं. ठीक है, आपको एडमिशन मिल गया, अब आप उस एडमिशन की बेसिस पर आपको I-20 वो डॉक्यूमेंट मिल जाएगा जिससे आपने अपना वीज़ा अप्लाई करना है. नाउ द ट्रिकी थिंग इज, जो यूएस एम्बेसी इन पाकिस्तान, दे आर वेरी 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 सस्पिशियस ऑफ यू इफ यू गो टू देम एंड यूर लाइक आई वांट टू गो टू दिस कम्युनिटी कॉलेज, बिकॉज देर लाइक अगर आपने कम्युनिटी कॉलेज जाना ही है जिसके लिए यू डोंट इवन हैव लाइक स्कॉलरशिप, उनकी पढ़ाई भी कोई इतनी खास नहीं होती है, तो यू गोना बी लाइक व्हाई डू यू इवन वांट टू स्पेंड दिस मच मनी एंड गो टू अमेरिका टू गेट योर एजुकेशन फ्रॉम अ कम्युनिटी कॉलेज. तो उनको भी शक होता है कि आप कहीं ऐसे तो नहीं जा रहे हैं, मतलब भाग तो नहीं जाएंगे वहाँ जाके. सो दे आर वेरी सस्पिशियस. सो द चांसेस ऑफ यू गेटिंग अ वीजा बेस्ड ऑन दैट कम्युनिटी कॉलेज का पेपर वर्क, बेसिकली अगर आप अपना कह रहे हैं कि जी मुझे वीज़ा चाहिए बिकॉज मैं कम्युनिटी कॉलेज पढ़ने जा रहा हूँ, तो चांसेस बहुत कम है कि आपको वीज़ा मिलेगा. और अगर आपको एक दफ़ा रिजेक्शन मिल गई उस वीज़ा के ऊपर, तो फिर आप जब अच्छे किसी कॉलेज में भी एडमिशन लेकर जाने की कोशिश करेंगे तो आपकी एप्लीकेशन के ऊपर उनके पास शो होगा कि इसको पहले हम रिजेक्ट कर चुके हैं, तो आप अपने चांसेस भी ख़राब करें बाद में भी वीज़ा एक्सेप्ट कराने के. सो आई वुड से डू नॉट टेक अ रिस्क. मैं पर्सनली कभी भी रिस्क ना लेती कम्युनिटी कॉलेज के थ्रू अप्लाई करने का. आई नो लॉट ऑफ इंडियन स्टूडेंट्स हैव डन दैट, एंड आई थिंक फॉर इंडियन स्टूडेंट्स इट माइट बी an easier option to get a visa through community college. I don't know कि उधर एम्बेसी में क्या सीन होता है, because a lot of my friends who are Indians did come through the route of going to a community college and then coming to a 4-year university. But to Pakistani students, most people that I know who applied to a community college and then tried to get a visa did not get their visa. So I would just suggest कि किसी और nationality के इंसान की YouTube वीडियो देखकर जिसमें उन्होंने community college अप्लाई किया और फिर उसके थ्रू वो US गए, I would say उससे इन्फ्लुएंस ना हो, because probably आपको वीज़ा नहीं मिलेगा. I mean obviously अगर आपका लक बहुत अच्छा और किसी तरह आपको मिल गया then that is a rare case, बट मोस्ट प्रॉबेबली आपके चांसेस बहुत कम होते हैं अगर आप कम्युनिटी कॉलेज में एडमिशन लेकर वीज़ा अप्लाई करते हैं. सो ट्राई टू आइदर गो फॉर अ पब्लिक यूनिवर्सिटी और फॉर अ प्राइवेट यूनिवर्सिटी. नाउ लेट्स टॉक अबाउट समथिंग सुपर इंपॉर्टेंट दैट इज ऑल्सो अ पार्ट ऑफ चूजिंग द राइट यूनिवर्सिटी फॉर योर सेल्फ. देयर इज 2 types: need-blind universities and need-aware universities. Some universities are need-blind, which basically means they don't care if you can financially afford them or not. They're not looking at your financial situation. They're only going to look at how your profile looks. They're only going to look at your application. If your application impresses them and they do give you an admission, they will make sure that you can attend it. For example, आपको एक नीड ब्लाइंड यूनिवर्सिटी ने एडमिशन दे दिया है, ठीक है, अब आप उनको कहते हैं सॉरी मैं तो अफोर्ड नहीं कर सकता आपकी फीस. They are so impressed by your profile that they don't care if you can financially afford them or not. So they're going to make sure that they meet your full demonstrated need. For example, you're like, I cannot pay you a single dollar. They will pay all of your tuition for you. Like they will cover all of that for you. So they don't care if you can afford them or not. If they've given you the admission, they will make sure your financial situation won't be a hurdle in attending that university. But here's the catch. Very, very few universities are need blind when it comes to international students. Some very famous ones include Harvard, MIT, Princeton or Amherst. These are super competitive. But yes, if you do get in, they will make sure that you're able to attend and that your financial situation is not a hurdle. On the other hand, most schools are need aware. That means if you apply for financial aid, when looking at your profile, they will take into consideration what your financial situation looks like to give you an admission. So they will make sure कि आप attend कर भी सकते हैं तो आपको admission मिलेगा. अगर उनको ये लगता है कि आपकी financial situation ऐसी है कि आप afford नहीं कर सकते, there is a chance कि वो सिर्फ इसी basis पर, even though आपकी पूरी application बहुत अच्छी थी, आपको admission शायद ना दे. In simple words, your financial situation is a factor that can hurt your admission decision for that university. And that doesn't mean कि आप hope lose कर दें कि ओ मेरा तो फिर admission हो ही नहीं सकता. No, that doesn't mean that. If you are very smart और आप अपनी application को इस तरह build करें, आप उसको इस तरह portray करें कि आपकी हर चीज़ makes you stand out from all the other candidates, even with a financial situation that is not very ideal, you might still get in, and they might even provide you that financial aid that you're looking for. So if you're very, very smart with how your application looks, it's all about that. It's about how strong you make it seem. You're still able to get an admission. They might even get so impressed that even while knowing your financial situation, while being need aware, they might still give you that admission, and along with that, they might even give you the financial aid to be able to attend that school if they're so impressed by you. In my case, TCU is a need aware university. They care about your financial situation, and they might not even give you an admission if they think that you can't financially afford it. However, I was extremely strategic with how I make my application look. I was very strategic. I was very cautious as to how I'm going to approach my application, because that made all the difference, because I personally couldn't afford TCU. If I was very brutally honest with my actual financial situation, I would not have gotten in. I would not even have gotten that financial aid. But I made sure कि मैं अपनी application को इस तरह दिखाऊं कि they're so impressed and they think कि I do have a chance to attend that university. And that is why they gave me a financial aid that helped cover the entire tuition cost. So you need to be very strategic, and you need to be very cautious as to how you fill out your application and how you make it seem. अगर आपकी application आपको खुद अंदर से पता है ना कि सारे candidates यहाँ stand करते हैं और आप यहाँ, you can still ensure कि आप अपनी application को इस तरह build करें कि वो फिर भी इधर खड़ी हो या maybe उन लोगों से भी ऊपर चली जाए. It is all about how strategic you are. So if you're thinking of applying to need aware schools, don't panic if you do not have the perfect financial situation to study in the US, but you're still wanting to, give it your best shot. You still can apply. It's all about making sure that your application looks really good. A strong application can truly get you that funding that you really need. I'm not joking. I am a living proof of that. Now let's quickly talk about how to find the right university for you. Start by checking sites like collegedata.com or collegeboard.org. Search for schools that offer scholarships and financial aid to international students. Check if they ask for a CSS profile. If they ask for a CSS profile rather than just a FAFSA, that means they give financial aid to international students. CSS profile is basically the form that you fill out as an international student to ask for financial aid. If a university accepts that, it means that they give financial aid to students who are international students. And if they do not take CSS profile, that means they probably don't give you financial aid. So that might not be the best university for you. However, if they're like, oh, we only take FAFSA, that's only for US citizens. So that's also not the best university for you. And also, if they do take CSS profile, amazing. But make sure that you check how much aid do they typically give. Does it look something that might be ideal for you, or is it something like way too less than what you're expecting? Then I would suggest shortlisting a mix of your dream schools, target schools, and your safety schools. Basically, one or two really competitive ones, a few where your profile matches very well, and then some where there's higher acceptance rates, but they also have really good financial aid opportunities. Don't just go for the famous ones, because a lot of people are like, oh, I'm only gonna apply to like Harvard, Yale, MIT, Stanford, and that's it. Don't just do that. Make sure that you're also applying to those that are a smart fit for you. And that is it for this part of the series. I hope this was helpful. In the next video, I will be walking you through the application. I will actually show you how to apply. We will be going over Common App. We will be going over recommendation letters and essays, all of that stuff. The link to the next video will also be available in the description once I've posted it, and the link to the playlist if you want to watch everything in order is also added to the description, and you can also go look it up on my channel. And if you want help in any sort of way, maybe picking up universities with your essay, maybe filling out the Common App, your CSS profile, anything like that, if you need any personalized guidance, you can always talk to me, have a one-on-one Zoom session with me, and in order to book that, you can go find a link to that in the description below. I will see you in the next video. Till then, take care. Allah Hafiz.